Hi, Sharon Preston here, and today's message is for instructors out there. Coaches and instructors of all kinds, but mainly for firearms. Stay tuned. I have taught and coached and trained literally thousands and thousands of people. And what I find is some of the best instructors and the best coaches create an environment where that student or that employee or whoever that person is that you're in charge of for their training, you have created an environment where that person can then expose their vulnerabilities to you. What I mean by that is there are several different layers of skill sets. Let's just talk about firearms. We could talk about horses or softball or anything else I've done. So with firearms, we have skill set. Can you press your gun out? Are you seeing your sights? Are you really focusing on the front sight? Have you learned to index shoot, index or thumb? How are your shoulders? Can you really press out? Are your elbows, down or out? Or what's your stance like? Are you having breath control issues? So your skill set, just getting hits on target. And you need to be good enough to be able to fix their grip or to decipher what they're doing wrong. And you have a lot of instructors out there with passion, or they're good at shooting, but they're not good at deciphering what their student is doing wrong and helping them to become better. So what they end up doing is just barking orders at them and molding them into themselves instead of working with that person on an individual and helping them become the best them. So that's the skill set. And then you start getting into judgment. Shoot or no shoot. Am I trusting my front sight now? Do I feel confident enough? I got my front sight on. Now do I press? Oh wait, it came out. Oh, now do I press? So judgment of either trusting your own aiming, trusting your own sight alignment, sight picture, which equals aiming, and then trusting the trigger press. I always tell my students, it's like if I were moving from your left to right and you had to throw me a tennis ball, your brain would take in all the information that it would need to figure out what angle you would have to throw it, the trajectory, how fast you'd have to throw it to hit my glove or hit my hand as I'm moving, right? Same with the gun, only the bullet gets there a lot faster. I'll wait till the plane goes over. Shoot or don't shoot, lateral thinking. How are their minds responding under stress? And then the third level is, I think, the most important, and that is allowing them the opportunity to express some fear that they might have, either through an experience that maybe they've had in their life or somebody else has had or they've seen on the news, or they're in fear of a negative response for drawing their firearm. You need to create an environment where that student can express their vulnerabilities of their fears, because if you don't, you can't give them the tools to fix it themselves. I find a lot of instructors, especially professionals that are training other professionals in certain industries, are very harsh and very judgmental, and so therefore their students aren't going to expose their vulnerabilities out of fear of getting reprimanded or written up or losing their job. It's really important that as an instructor, you create an environment that your students or your employees or whomever you're in charge of training, if you really, really, truly want to have them be successful and give them the tools to do so, then you need to allow them to expose their vulnerabilities so that you can then help them acquire the tools and the skills to get better. That's kind of the message today, is just please, as coaches, instructors, figure out the 3 different levels that you're going to be training on. Get your skills and drills down first. Get your judgment down, when to press the trigger if we're just shooting for sports, trusting that sight and trusting yourself. And then emotional issues of fear. Fear always is based in the lack of knowledge, right? So make sure that your students have a very clear and concise understanding of the laws, ability, opportunity, and jeopardy, and why those must be in play. And if you don't know it as an instructor, then you shouldn't be teaching it. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the fact. So you need to know exactly the law and teach your students that. I mean, ultimately it's their responsibility to keep up on the state laws, because each individual state, they're always changing and they're mandated by the states. The ultimate training aid is laser shot. I'm franchising Ladies of Lead, and it's mandatory that every lady has a laser shot system. The sim range is fantastic. We can work on skills and drills. We can work on reactionary gaps. We can work on judgmental training. And we can work emotionally too, especially with the scenario training. We have just under 1,000 scenarios. 60% of those branch to 3 to 7 different outcomes. We can have OC, which is pepper spray, a taser, or more lethal. It helps reframe violence if you've been involved in a shooting or some horrible violent act yourself, or a friend of yours might have been. You can come in there and train on the laser shot slowly, and during the debrief after the scene, that's when we learn the most. We learn the most about our skill set. Does it match reality? I just did a video on that. We can learn about judgment, shoot or don't shoot, ability, opportunity, and jeopardy for lethal force, the act of violence, and then we can learn what our reactionary gap is to get hits on target to stop that threat. And then we can talk about how it made us feel, or what could we have done different? When did we see it? What did we see? Did we see what we were looking at? Did we hear what we were listening to? Through laser shot, the virtual trainer, and we can put that in a live fire range too. You just put a self-healing backstop and a thermal camera and it works in there as well. Laser shot simulation is absolutely the best and least expensive on the market for real training. So I highly recommend that if you're an instructor or if you're a law enforcement department or military. I have the Northwest states, so I have Oregon, Washington, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, North and South Dakota. So if you are in any of those states, you can get a hold of me here, and I'd be happy to help you get your very own laser shot system, or I'll come out and do a demo for you. I'd like to hang out with you. Please be sure and subscribe and click the little bell so the next time I put a video up, you'll be the first to know it. And check out the website at ladiesoflead.com, Facebook, Ladies of Lead Group Therapy. And until next time, be safe out there.